You're ready. I'm ready. I'm like the door on a 737 Max-9. I'm ready to get out of here.
Hey, by the way, I was looking at some of these flights to that convention, and they are Alaskan Airways.
I was looking at the pictures it showed whenever that plane came back in of that plug door that popped out, and there's a seat right there. And I was texting my cousin about it, and I said, that would be awesome to have sat in that seat. Now, it'd been scary, but I mean, the seat's still there. You'd been buckled in.
And I don't think they were high enough for it to have sucked anybody out.
No, they I think they were high enough because they had to dive down to 10,000 just so, that there was air to breathe.
Well, that has more to do with, oxygen, but
right.
There was, I don't think the pressure was built up that much because I think they lost a couple of cell phones. Nobody was sitting in that seat, but nobody else had seatbelts on either.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, you're supposed to have your seatbelt on all the way from ramp to ramp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like they say, nobody, please everybody remain seated until we're, at the gate, and we'll instruct you to do so. Man, as soon as that plane is on the runway, people are standing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who actually turns their phone into airplane mode anyway?
Well, I mean, apparently people that care about the safety of everybody else on the flight. Because apparently it will bring it down. I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit too, I'm sure.
Probably. I'm pretty sure we'll dive off into many other topics.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. We always do.
All right. Hit the go button.
Oh, it's been going.
Oh. Yeah. Man, that's awesome. We're so good at this.
We are. We're great. Uncancelable.
Welcome to the We Rock Podcast, episode number 15.
15.
Which is a number that has nothing to do with anything, really. I can't think of the importance of number 15.
No.
And why. And truthfully, as we think about it, we were just talking about how when the season ending is, we kind of said March, for new season, but,
when did we officially start? I can't even remember. I guess.
Well, I've got to click on a button. Hold on, let's go look. March 10th.
March 10th
was the intro. That was number 1.
Okay.
And we've steadily gone downhill ever since.
That's correct. I say whenever we get to March and we can start, season 2, which I mean, we could start season 2 anytime we want. It just feels right to do it at the year mark.
Well, I know. So what we got to decide though is how do we treat the season? Do we change it up a little bit? It depends on how early you want to do. If you ever watched House, they went to season 4 before they introduced new characters and switched things up. But if you're watching Reacher, then season 2 is a whole different plot line.
That's true. The new season of Reacher is pretty awesome, by the way.
I'm 1 episode in, so don't get too far.
Yeah, I think we should do a giveaway for the new season. We'll supply somebody with a design. New idea here. Have you ever heard of a SERP top?
Double outline panels. I don't think I've just come up with this new idea. We're going to call it a double outline panel. And it's because I really don't have another name for it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what we're going to do.
It sounds edgy.
So, all right. So we made this, we need to approach a conversation early on because we had talked about how we were going to record before Christmas.
Oops. Merry Christmas, everybody. Yeah. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Somebody messed that up. Oops. And my computer all set up, my mic all set up.
And that was the day that one family told me that they would be in at a certain time on the nose. And I was like, good deal. And about 4:45,
Here's what's funny about this, right? Because it's a podcast, we can joke a little bit about it, but also tell the seriousness of it. Because inevitably, if you say this stuff in certain groups, they're like, "Oh, you have no patience, and that family needs to da 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 da." Okay, but I've got a vent. That doesn't mean I can't be sympathetic to what the family's gone through and that they're mourning and that this is difficult, right?
Right.
But I've got a vent because it's still frustrating for me that nobody was here at the time. But then you told me afterwards, what did you send me?
Oh yeah, no, it's again, like you said, you have to vent or you lose your mind. But I'm sitting here waiting on this family to show up, and it's just the wife, the widowed wife, that's going to be showing up, and I'm like, come on, please hurry up. I got things I want to do. And she finally rolls in. She comes in. We take her in the back. She looks at the memorial, and she just starts tearing up. And then she looks at me and she says, "Can I give you a hug?" And I'm like, yes. And then after that, it's, "Y'all are so great. Y'all have made this process so easy. I appreciate everything about you." And then it's just, you feel like an ass.
You are, but that's indifferent of. But no, I mean, you've got to have the chance to vent. I think sometimes people will make comments on to the Monument Builders group and stuff like that, and somebody goes, "Well, that's the family." Like, give me a chance to just. I need a place of like-minded people that I can just go, "This is stupid and it pisses me off," and somebody to go, "You know what? You're right. It is stupid." Instead of somebody going, "Well, wait a minute. Just give me a break. I understand. I need a chance to blow some steam." But that's kind of the prime example. It's just you vent for a minute, and then, but inevitably the family makes it a great scenario. So yeah, that's the reason why we didn't have a one before Christmas, because I was already off, and then life happened, and I really just didn't do anything for 2 weeks.
I was
Not
about
a thing.
I was about the same way. No, I did go snow skiing.
Yeah, you did, and he couldn't get a hold of you there either.
Yep, I was up on a mountain, cell phone reception kind of spotty, and it was also spotty whenever my wife was trying to get a hold of me, trying to tell me that she was hurt, laying up on the side of the mountain. So,
wait a minute, we can't laugh at that. She's going to hear this later.
Yeah, luckily we were skiing with another family that we're friends with, and their cell phones were working, and he called me and he's like, yeah, you need to send ski patrol up the mountain for your wife. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, she twisted her knee up, hopefully just a bad sprain. She's still hobbling around the house at the moment, but getting better.
Man. Well, all right.
Yeah.
This is why I don't go skiing. And it actually has nothing to do with any of that. It has everything to do with I don't like the cold. So
I love snow skiing. Snow skiing's fun.
Water skiing, man. Just get me behind a boat. We'll be fine.
Right.
So, yeah, that's why that never happened. But other than that, man, things have been good. We're back, and it looks like we can sit here and have those conversations that the Northerners, the Yankees, are going to get all up in arms about. I'm going to talk about how cold it's fixing to be next week, and whatnot. So
yeah, like next week, I think on Monday we have a low of like 5 degrees.
Let's see. What's the weather bugs say? 10-day forecast next Monday. Well, our low is 22. It's actually changed. I think it was 17 before, but I mean, it's going to be windy and cold.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. We're going camping this weekend, apparently. When I say we're going camping, we're going to go stay in. My buddy's son has a birthday party, and he wants to play airsoft out at the lease.
Okay.
And the boys want to go camping. He and I are going to stay and drink in the cabin.
That'll work. Oh, so it's not the traditional sense of camping. You're not like popping a tent out there.
I have no problem sleeping in a tent. I have a problem sleeping in a tent when it's cold. Eagle Scout was in Scouts for 7-8 years, something like that. And went plenty winter camps that were sub freezing. I've worn that T-shirt, all that fun stuff. I'm not doing it again. So I don't have a problem camping. I have a problem camping when it's cold.
Right.
So it's not any fun. But no. So yeah, that's about what's going on. But other than that, just doing our thing. But I kind of want to talk to you about this. So lately, some of the people on the regular Mining Builders group have seen. I've been kind of running questions. Well, the irregular one has cemetery folks in it, and people. I'm gonna piss people off. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
Do it. That's the voice inside your head.
And people who ask for fonts in things. So, anyways, I'd asked on the group several convention questions. One of them being which conventions you're, and I'm kind of going through a list of polls that I've kind of created. And some of it's because you and I are on the SMBA, and we've got planning coming up and stuff like that for that. And there's other ones coming up, which I've got more information on here in a minute that you know about, but we'll share here in a second. Trying to kind of get an idea of what works and what's drawing people. So in looking at some of these polls, I kind of started off with what conventions are you going to? MBU is coming up, the Mining Builders University, which is MBNA, and that's in San Diego, which we've talked about a few times. And there's also Mid-Atlantic coming up, and I think Mid-Atlantic is first.
Yes.
Followed by MBU. On the poll, we're like right now, of course, it's way early on some of these, right? Because you've got Tennessee, Kentucky. Ours isn't until June. And then Carolina's, I think, is not until later on in the year. But those are pretty low. But you got like 33% of the people polled say they're going to MBU San Diego, which is actually, surprising when you look at the other numbers. Now, some of these people may be going to multiples.
Right.
But it's the numbers look pretty good for them for now, at least. We're at 22% of that poll, but our people show up. And I don't know the other conventions if other people show up, but our people are very good about showing up and consistent. That's what makes us so much like a family, is it's a family reunion for us big time.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into a lot of, some of these options that you've put on the poll, for you personally, what is it that makes you continue going to these conventions?
It depends on which ones we're talking about. Southern, it is truly about our region and the family region we have. It's being able to see our friends locally and whatnot. Seeing the vendors, I think it's a little bit more intimate setting with our vendors.
Yes.
There. So I rather enjoy that. We can talk about it and stuff like that. Of course, you and I are in that board, so we kind of are able to dictate some of the education.
True.
Right now, it's not necessarily firmed up yet, but we're getting there. It's pretty close to at least one of the education people, and I don't even know that half the board knows this, but you, I, and Duff know. And for right now, that's all that matters. Because I think we're the only ones that listen to this. So, but we've got, it looks like we're going to have Dan Giroux, who we talked about before, being the psycho who installed up in the snow, on the last episode or whatever. So he's going to come down and talk textures, which he had done at AICA a couple of years ago, and was awesome. So he did that back in, it was in Philly. It was in 19 that he did that conversation. And it was kind of cool because whenever I heard that he was going to talk about this, I said, how are we going to be in this really nice hotel in the middle of Philadelphia, and he's going to talk about texture work? I mean, is he bringing these tools in, and he like, it's going to be like, we breaking rock inside this hotel? But what he did was he had some samples he'd already done the work to. He brought the tools, or not all the tools, but enough of the tools so that you get the idea what's going on. He shows kind of the motions and then the use of them. It was pretty cool. I rather enjoyed that. So I actually extended an invitation to him to come speak in June at ours. He seemed to be happy about that and excited to come down. And, I told him I'd buy him a drink. He had to pay for everything else, though. No, we'll take care of him. They took care of us, but we're gonna take care of him, bring him down, and it'll be a good time. He and his wife are awesome. They're very good folks, and they're good to have around. But he can be kind of quiet, but he's super knowledgeable and fun to talk to, and just he knows his stuff. He is a rock nut and a stone carving guy, just like me and you, and just wants to talk the stuff. So it's a lot of fun to talk to him about it. So that's coming up for us. But those are the kind of things I like to dive into. This is the education for like this. I think I've pretty much nailed down at this point. I've been back and forth for a week or two about MBU in San Diego. I think I've finally decided that I am going to go. I got a room booked. I don't have a flight booked yet. I'm kind of looking around. Hey, what do you think about Alaskan Airlines? Is that a
tickets might be cheap.
Should I get like an emergency exit seat?
There is more leg room in it. I would recommend. It might come with a hell of a view too.
And I understand the air conditioning in that spot's to die for.
just don't have your iPad on the tray table. Just saying.
Yeah. So no, we I think I'm for sure going out to San Diego. There's a couple educational things that are going on out there that I really want to hear. The Fainleys are going to talk about sales technique and stuff. And I already know that their sales process is different than mine. It's not necessarily going to work for mine, but I'm kind of hoping I can kind of pull some little pieces of cute things that they do and kind of use that within what we do a little bit here. Aaron Fainley, Heather Sturgill, and Adam Longstreth are going to do a education on designing in front of a customer, which is not what I do and not something I intend to change, but I intend to go to watch that to see just different processes. It's you can't know what works until you know what doesn't work, and then you can't know what doesn't work until you know what works. Mindset. So there's always things that you can do to pick and choose and adjust what you're doing. And that's kind of what I figure I'm going out for, to justify the trip. And it's been, I think, since 2020, in Athens that I've been to MBNA anyway. So unless you count me speaking at the online version in 21.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. Heck of a convention. Met a lot of people.
But no, so it looks like people are going through. There's a lot of people going to that one. I mean, here, let me back up. Let me ask you, because you asked me, why do you go to the conventions?
Oh, my answer, it's going to be pretty close to what yours is. I mean, like the SMBA, that one, it's different to me than other conventions because, like you said, it's a lot more intimate. You bring your family, I bring my family, kids all get to play together, and it's just a good opportunity to sit around and catch up with a lot of guys you hadn't seen in quite a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, and for us, I mean, I've got there's the kind of the group of guys that you and I hang around with. So it's you, me, and Jason Campbell cause a lot of trouble, and when we can get Jonathan to come hang out with us, it's definitely we're gonna cause some ruckus, and we have a great time, and but that's a different animal, I think, for us than the others. You've only been to the one MBNA, is that correct?
I've been to 3 MBNAs.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Athens, the one that the MBU in Irving, and then No, I take it back. I've been to 4. The first full display I went to was in St. Louis, and then the last full display I went to was the one that was in Memphis.
Okay. So yeah, but oh my gosh, the phone's ringing. So yeah, we went. I'm gonna avoid it. Let somebody else get it. No, we did. I'm really considering going out to. Not consider. I'm going to go out to MBU, and that ought to be good. There's going to be some talks about other things. I think there's going to be a discussion on. Only thing I can think to say is Stone Spot, but it's not. Like there's other ones, right? The softwares for
order tracking, things like that.
Order tracking. Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stuff. We've actually I think you and I've talked about it. I've transitioned into a different software. Just that's been working pretty well, and they've allowed us to kind of help set up to the way we use it. I want to use it. They're fixing to come out with some pretty cool stuff. So they'll be out there, but there's going to be a discussion on all these different softwares for that. So that ought to be interesting to hear too.
That'd be good.
I've got some interesting news coming up though. Is that I heard not through the grapevine, but from the horse's mouth that MonuCon is going to be back in February of 25.
That one's going to be fun. I didn't get to go to the first MonuCon, but I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
That was one of my favorite conventions I've ever been to. So, and I don't say that to follow up with this, but I say that because legitimately it was actually one of the favorite conventions I'd ever been to. That has nothing to do with the fact that it sounds like we're working on a conversation or having conversations about them being one of our first sponsors for We Rock. So that's in discussion, and we'll see how that goes. But that it's good that they're actually coming back and doing their show again. And man, they do a great job of taking care of people. So
and I'm looking forward to seeing what the differences are going to be, especially being involved with SMBA, to going to a convention that's not run by any of the regional organizations.
Right. This has got it set up pretty well because they do. They really handle the show, and it was good. I can't decide if it was because they just chose the right casino to do it at, or I rather enjoyed myself harassing the Yankees fans that were picking on me about the Astros having won. Hey, by the way, as we're going to go into sports, baseball's now officially around the corner.
Oh yeah, we're past the baseball solstice.
Yep. So. College football ended last night, and to this, you'll appreciate this. Michigan won, which I know you don't follow college football, but Michigan won. Okay. The significance behind this is that Michigan won and is being blamed for sign stealing and going into the end of the season. And to which I said, I don't care. They all steal signs. Mm-hmm. And I would have a hard time being an Astros fan and saying I care.
Well, at least you're consistent.
But it's appropriate that they won it in Houston. And if I ever hear a Michigan fan go, "Oh, the Astros suck because they steal signs," I'm going to go, "Okay, it's the pot calling the kettle a little bit there."
Yeah. And talking about baseball, with what the Dodgers are doing this offseason, if they do not get a ring in 24, that is going to be one of the ultimate letdowns.
Man, they're spending a lot of money.
Oh, man. I mean, they've already committed over $1 billion in this offseason to new players.
Well, half of that's to one.
Yeah, more than half, $700 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I should have spent more time in the backyard throwing a ball.
Oh man. So, but no. So I think there's a lot of really good stuff coming up. I did put out, back to what we're really supposed to be talking about. Oops. I put out another poll as well on top of that. I'm going to refresh just to see if any numbers have updated on it. I put out another poll to see what people are interested in hearing about on at these conventions, and some of it actually kind of ties into what we do right here on the podcast, right? Because we can actually extrapolate this information into the podcast to some extent, correct?
Correct.
So, but the overwhelming number here, and I was surprised because there's this. I just put this out this morning. There's 67 votes in here, and in that 67 votes, the overwhelming, or not the overwhelming majority, but the almost 30%, 29% of the votes are for creating designs and new designs and how to do that. I didn't specifically put anything beyond creating designs. I'm sure it can be, how do you create new designs? How do you do something different? What are you creating it on as far as software goes? How do you design in front of a customer, or however that is? But it seems as though if you go off of this scale, it goes creating designs at 29%, visiting with vendors at 24%, 18% is sales education. And then the next one closest is 9% at marketing. So the rest of it's all kind of a spattering in there, with the lowest one being about the thing that I'm famous for complaining about, which is legal education and insurance information. So,
yeah, because that's always a riveting topic.
Well, my problem with this is that if I want information, if I want legal advice, I don't want somebody who's going to punt and be like, well, I don't want to be liable for the information because I just gave you an information, you went off of it. I want to actually go talk to my attorney. And that's what I pay him for. That's what I want him to do. Or if it's an insurance question, I want somebody who's, in both of these scenarios, they need to be familiar with not just my business, but my area as well, my geographic location.
No, I want to be able to. I want to be able to get my pickup and drive to their office in 15 minutes.
Yes, and so that's why, to me, those just don't pan well for me, and I don't even sit in on them, just because it's kind of a waste. But really, truthfully, it sounds to me like if you kind of can focus your full convention on creating designs and sales or education with a little bit of other things in there. If you need filler, like in there at 6%, you're at shop talk, and tool talk kind of thing, which we've done before. An hour discussion from everybody as a round table, like, hey, what works for you, tips and tricks kind of stuff. And then 9%, again, marketing. How do you present it? But in marketing, has got to be a little bit specific because you got to be somebody who knows how to market within the monument industry and not just a general marketing person, right?
Right.
Because how you market CC's Pizza is going to be different than how they kind of lead to the same thing, but but how you market them is going to be completely different. So it's the polls turned out rather interesting, and so I've got more coming up. We're gonna I will kind of spatter them out a little bit, and hopefully this kind of helps other associations create some guidelines on what they're doing, because inevitably we're seeing numbers drop, and some people, like there's one guy who said he wasn't going to one of the conventions because it's too expensive. So I asked him, why is it too expensive? Right? Because that's a broad question. It's too expensive can mean all kinds of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's, well, I'm not going because, they just want us to spend a lot of money, right? We may not be talking about the registration fees. It could be travel expense. It could be, we don't need to stay at that kind of ritzy hotel. My business doesn't have enough income for that kind of thing or whatever. Pick your poison. But in the grand scheme of things, you've got to ask, what do you mean by expensive? Right. In his scenario, he specifically said travel. So I don't know where he is, but I mean, if he's a lot more rural and has a lot of connecting flights and becomes a pain, then yeah, sure, maybe it is a little bit more expensive.
True. But even so, whenever, like you talk about, what level of expensive are you talking about? Just like going to college, education costs money. And whenever you do attend these, be involved in them. Don't be one of those that just you go to the happy hours and then you see them at the bar.
Right.
If you're going to go to these, definitely step up, participate, be vocal, and see that is that expense is it's education. You're spending that money on yourself to better yourself.
And I'll say this: don't be afraid to. I think a lot of people get worried or embarrassed when they say something. You know, they're like, "Well, if I say this, it's going to be wrong, and people are going to judge me." Yeah, maybe, but what do you care? Because truthfully, if I say something and it comes off stupid and I get corrected, but I'm able to correct that for my families I serve, I don't care what the people down over there think about because I said something stupid. I'm trying to improve what I do for the families I serve and for my business.
Oh, yeah.
I can't know that it's wrong until I know that it's wrong,
Right.
until it comes out or whatever. So I think a good way to kind of talk about what you're talking about is how to get something out of it, right? You know, you don't get, it's funny. So above my monitor here is my diploma on the wall. And however much I spent on my education at that place down the road, that was exorbitant amount. And then I had the diploma framed and hung up over here. The value, because it's ag leadership and development, it was my degree, has nothing to do. My degree has nothing to do with what I do, but that piece of paper hanging on the wall has brought me a lot more business. And not because I have a piece of paper hanging up. It has everything to do with my region. And Aggies want to buy from Aggies. And so that's what that comes down to. I don't think you need a degree to do this job or to do well in it, but you have to have some information to do it, right? Meaning you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. And some of that means where you're going to get your information.
Oh, yeah.
One of the better comments I've heard from forever and ever comes from Dave Pace. And Dave says that he wants to leave a convention making more off of the information he got than what he spent on that convention.
If anything, the conventions just give you a good sense of direction.
Yes.
It gives you a path to where at least you can set some goals for yourself. Because going back to the top poll result at the moment, which is creating designs, at least it opens your eyes up to seeing a whole different way of how other people are doing it. And you can, I mean, I'm not saying copy their style, but you can at least blend it with yours and start making those incremental steps.
Okay. Here, I'm going to cast a net and see what you think. Can we take that information that's there? And granted, this poll is only a few hours old, so this could very well change, but I don't see it changing because I've kind of looked at the results and who's in there and whatnot. Taking that information that's in there and it showing that we're at 29% or 30%, so almost a third of the votes saying that creating designs is the most important thing they want to get out of that. And then we look at some of the posts, and this is not a demeaning comment towards anybody making posts, but the majority of the posts that get made in the different groups is, hey, can you help me with this design, or where can I find this? From that information, can we not assume that, man, people are super interested in making sure they know how to get good designs or do it themselves, even to that matter, right? I think a lot of people want to be able to take care of these things. They're not interested in trying to hand things off. And I think to some extent, it takes a lot of courage to ask for those things, even though I would rather buy the thing or find a way to do it myself. I think that's what we're finding out. Is this poll number tells us that people want to be able to handle it. They want to take care of the customers. They want to be able to design for them. They just don't have the know-how. And I think creating those opportunities is important.
And I think whenever there is an educational session that is geared towards creating new designs, that it needs to be a hand-on. That you need to be able to actively participate in it, just like what Jed did with us in the Woodlands. He hands out sheets of paper. Here's a bucket of pencils, and everybody draw something. And then, of course, a lot of people, they were real hesitant to do it because the next step in that was, hey, you text them to me and I'm going to put them up here and we're all going to talk about it. And a lot of people were real hesitant to do that because they're uncomfortable with showing their work in front of a group of their peers like that.
But and so there's a number of people, and you and I bounce design stuff off each other. I do with a few other people. Wes will send me stuff from time to time. And there's people that you know how to goof with. You know, you're like, oh man, what are you thinking? This is trash. Why would you ever do it? Because they're buddies and you know how to deal with it. And I will typically, even if my buddies post in Monument Builders and stuff like that, I harass them just because it's what our relationship is. But if your designs are not bad, and even if you can't draw, your designs aren't bad. And I don't mean you. I mean, I'm talking in generality, right? Your designs are horrible.
I'll agree. I'll agree.
But no, so in generality, your designs aren't necessarily bad. They may need tweaking. You may not be happy with the way you draw. That's fine. We're trying to get across the premise and the concept. Keep in mind that even the biggest and best artists they spend hours and hours and hours on their artwork. However, they do a concept sketch in minutes.
Yes.
And in those design classes, that's what we're talking about as a concept sketch. Look, not everybody that goes to those design classes is going to be Terry Joy or Brian Oswalt. Okay. You're not going to be look in John Faley, who's going to be at MBU. Both John and Terry Joy, their backgrounds are architecture. That's not a fair comparison to just about anybody else, right? I mean, they are trained to draw. So I'm saying, can you get across the concept and look at the concept, and can you see the avenue to get it to be a phenomenal monument design? The hand drawing doesn't have to be good. Right. It's what ends up on the stone that matters. Correct?
Absolutely.
So don't be afraid to go take these classes. If you're wanting to jump in, don't go do them. I think it's very valuable. It's in all of these, be participative. Participative or whatever.
Yeah.
Participation, not precipitation. That's different.
Right. You may precipitate while you do it because you're frustrated, but but one thing, especially anybody that's going to be listening to this, anybody that's going to be attending these classes, if you're already willing to at least take those small steps, you're already a leg up on a vast majority of people out there. Because if you look through other monument companies, Facebook pages, websites, anything, whatever, most are just willing to punt. Yeah. Most of them will never go beyond the 3-panel design, praying hands in the corners. So if you can at least start to push yourself beyond that, you've already got a leg up.
Exactly. And just feeling that, I would say the first thing to do is find the thing that you're doing consistently that drives you nuts, and fix that first. The old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. And there's your thought about the Roman Empire today. You got to take those steps and figure out what it is. And maybe you go, look, I'm just sick and tired of doing these double outline panels. How can I change it? And maybe it's changing the shape of the panel, changing the line weight of the panel, changing the corners and how the corners look. If you get online and you search any one of those design stock image things, and you just type in decorative
DEC. Okay.
You type in decorative panels, you're going to get all kinds of just drawings automatically, right? So then you go, I had to add the word vector so I could clear it up a little bit. But you're going to get all kinds of panels that are already kind of created for you, and it'll give you some ideas on how to create a design, or at least a start. Then you can even say, you could say decorative corners. Okay. And then you're going to get a whole new list of things that you can use in the corner of your panels to change those panels up. So, and I don't say this, I say this as like, hey, use that as a piece of information as a starting spot, and you know where to kind of start moving with, right? And that way you have a place where you can go, all right, this is something I can change. I don't like the way these doves look. I want to find a different dove, or I want to draw a new dove. Those are the things that you've got to start doing, right? So,
even go on Pinterest. Pinterest is an awesome place to get some ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. So, spend some time in doing those kind of things and looking at something new and trying other things out. But, I think that's big. So, one of the other things, since we kind of talked about conventions, one of the things that you and I talked about, and this is a little different. Of course, this goes into the lower education panel of what that thing was. Contracts. When it comes to what your family sign, I'm going to post these into WeRock, what I have, and I don't know what you have them sign. But we've got a number of things that we have a family sign when they come out, when a family signs a contract with us, right? One's the estimate and invoice. A lot of this has to do with the wording that is on our paperwork, because that's what's important, right? It's how we protect ourselves and how we move forward on some of that stuff. Another one is so it's the wording on our layouts as well as the wording on our estimates or invoices, and then the check sheets and stuff like that. So there's like a bunch of different things. I've seen for years a bunch of monument shops will do stuff in triplicate on pre-drawn triplicate things. I didn't like that because once you order it, you can't change it if you decide you need to change it. So we just print our own.
I made the switch too. Used to do the triplicates.
Yeah, and so it was always kind of just a nightmare for some of that. But the big thing that we did in the last couple of years was have them sign this checklist. I understand this and I understand that, and that's been a big savings for us as a head, to keep people from causing problems for a while now. And it says stuff like, basically there's a list of 8 things, and you initial beside those numbers, and after we go through them, and then you have to sign at the bottom, right? One of them is estimated time of completion, and then it says blank, and that's where we fill in that blank after final approval of. So it says estimated completion time, and let's say it's 6 months after final approved layout is received for completion.
Not when the order's placed.
Right. Because now, obviously that means that we can beat that time pretty easily, but if it's if they don't sign the layouts and they keep making these changes, why is it, we ordered it a year and a half ago. How come it's not done? You haven't signed the layout. I can't do it. So I can't, man, take your money all the time, but until you sign that, I can't produce anything.
Right.
So another one was, I understand that the monument must be paid in full for the monument to be engraved. Logical kind of thing. That's how we do things, but you got to get them to sign it so that they understand that. I've had people try to fight me on that one before after the fact that they've signed it. And they say, well, I'm not paying you till it's done. How do I know you're going to do it? I said, well, because you signed my form.
Right.
I can show you your signature. I understand that all time frames may change due to weather, supply chain management. complications, and acts of God. Right?
Mm-hmm. Good CYA.
Yep. I acknowledge that the grave must be properly marked by the cemetery personnel. If the cemetery is not maintained by caregivers, the family must properly mark the grave with flags. I understand that. I understand the complication in scheduling. Complications in scheduling do not allow me to be present at the installation of the monument.
That one's always a tough one.
That doesn't mean they can't be there.
Uh-huh.
But it means that it is. Don't ask me to tell you that it's going to be at 2:00 on Tuesday.
Right.
And get upset that we're not there till 4.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Because you may have intended to be out there at 2, but that one you started at 9 in the morning, you ran into a bunch of tree roots.
Right. Just the any kind of number of traffic issues or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I understand that I have fully read the terms and conditions on the estimate and have approved and signed the estimate on the monument. I have fully read the terms and conditions on the layout and have approved and signed the layout. And then the last one says, I understand that any future engravings are not included in the price of this monument.
Yeah. Nah, Mama paid for it all.
Oh, yeah. Huh. Mm-hmm. So Mama has signed that one and given it that to us. We also have, like, one of our cemeteries has to have a permit that we have to file a permit, but it does require a signature from the family and next to kin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we go ahead and have that permit sitting attached to some of these folders so that we can go ahead and knock that out while they're here so that we don't have to go back and forth later.
Yes.
But a concept, because this is something that may or may not have come up recently, and I want to kind of pick your brain on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's create a hypothetical scenario that or may not actually exist.
Okay.
A cemetery, perpetual care cemetery, run by, we're going to call it I almost got in trouble. Hold on. The Church of Scientology.
The Church of Scientology. Same thing.
Okay. They run a cemetery, but they also sell monuments.
I was going to call it the Seaside Crab Institute, but whatever.
So they have they also sell monuments, but they also have their cemetery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they start changing rules and start making it rather difficult for you to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of a limited power of attorney?
It'd be interesting to look into. It's something that I have thought about before. I've just never really delved that deep into it.
So this, and let's be real. I joke about it being a religion-owned or religious church-affiliated cemetery. Mm-hmm. It could be a regular perpetual care cemetery.
Correct.
A big conglomerate owns the cemetery and has started giving you issues as well.
And that's why I've considered what you're talking about before, primarily because if there was ever an issue, the cemetery would always want to talk with the family, and sometimes that was them trying to convince them to get a refund for me to move my cell or move the cell over to them. And I do agree that a limited power of attorney might be a good idea, because then you're able to sign any document.
That's it. And you're going to have your attorney write whatever it is up.
Oh, correct.
But if you have a limited power of attorney, and it is to make sure that all things concerning the monument purchase for such and such plot is handled, and that you handle those things. And it's look, you're going to have to deal with some paperwork that's going to have some legal jargon on it that you're not going to be familiar with, and you're going to have and this is you explaining to the family.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some setting fees that they're going to ask for you to pay, but we're already collecting those fees for you, so that we can get that all taken care of. And it's that way it's a one-time deal. You don't have to fool with it. If something comes up that is concerning, I will approach you with it and kind of get your opinion and give you my opinion on it as well, so that you have an educated choice.
Mm-hmm.
But that way, when they reach out to the family and say, well, we need to see the design before we can approve it. Well, we can't allow this in the cemetery. If you buy it from somebody else, then we won't warranty it if it gets damaged, or we can't guarantee it won't get damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those kind of phraseology things go out the window whenever you're the power of attorney when it comes to that plot. And they say, oh, well, because you bought it somewhere else, we've got to have this other fee here. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably gets a little messy. I'm going to say probably because I don't deal with a lot of it, right? It's not something we have to fool with because of where we are.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of perpetual care cemeteries for me. And the ones that we do have to deal with are city owned, and we tend to get along with them pretty well. So in those scenarios, it's something that, man, it might be something worth considering, and having those families, especially nowadays with the reason, and I'll get into this and say the reason why we have the families sign this permit while they're in here is because a lot of these families, when it comes time to sign this permit, don't live around here any longer.
Exactly.
And they're like, well, we need next of kin to sign it. Well, they're not here.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they say, let's say that the cemetery, and I've got one cemetery here that does this, good cemetery. It's just an old city. It hard to change rules, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they want, there's a permit fee of $25 or setting fee of $25. However, the family has to go into the city office to pay that fee. But if you live in Timbuktu, because nobody lives in that town anymore,
right,
it makes it rather difficult. So now those people are good, and I think they probably find other ways to handle that in the situation, right? They don't necessarily beat those people up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's say they don't. Then if you have the limited power of attorney, you go, oh, look, I've got power of attorney. We'll take care of those fees.
Oh, yeah.
It just, in the grand scheme of things, it does make life easier on your family if you can get them to approve that.
Correct.
And you're going to have to spell out the terms of what that is in your power of attorney for them to sign.
Right. Yeah, you're not able to make life-changing decisions for them. It's just relegated to the memorial in the cemetery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have power of attorney to sell your house or the plots, for that matter.
Right.
It is really only concerning, and it would only be it would be something if you're going to do it, you let the family know. Look, in this particular cemetery, what we have you do, because we're going to have, once you sign our contract, we will ask you to sign a power of attorney to give you. This is what it does. You don't have to, but understand that these are the things that you're going to run into. You're going to have to make decisions with them. Whereas otherwise, it's just all going to run through us. If something kind of fishy comes up, we'll let you know, but we'll handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm talking about especially dealing with the big conglomerate cemeteries. The one that's here local to me, they've all of a sudden gotten real picky on putting benches out in the cemetery. It's got to the point now to where we can't even complete the sale of the bench until they approve it. And they're pretty slow to approve it. So if a family comes in and wants to buy a bench, we have to not only get the entire design done and then send over to them, then they're going to sit on it for about 5 days. And then they're going to let you know whether or not you're allowed to set that bench. And it makes it hard, especially whenever you talk about, like you were talking about, people not living here anymore. Well, they were here, they had the checkbook ready, and now we're just kind of in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
And it seems like every year there's some new neat little rule.
Mm-hmm. And look, none of this means that we're going to be able to circumvent all the rules they create. I think in general, and it's going to sound bad, but you have to follow my logic here. This is a back and forth game.
Mm-hmm.
And to call it a game, some people are going to go, well, it's not a game. We're dealing with people's emotions. And I get that. I don't mean it I'm not trying to devalue it. What I'm trying to say is we're playing chess.
Yes.
And I'm not going to blanket call and say that everybody who's in the cemeteries are bad or everybody who's in a funeral home is bad or whatever, because I don't believe that to be the case.
Right.
Unfortunately, there are a handful of them out there that are pains in the rear that make this more difficult, and they're the ones who kind of cast get everybody else cast in a bad light.
Right.
Monument guys are in the same boat. There's still bad ones out there as well that paint the rest of us in bad light. And so in this situation, we have to figure out how do we best handle these scenarios. They're trying to protect themselves and try to protect their income and their sales and all that, while we're doing the same. We've got different points of view, and that's the way we've got to come at it. And so you've got to it's a continual push and shove and figure out ways to best protect yourself. And fortunately, sometimes you've got to be a little bit more creative with some of those cemeteries.
Oh, definitely so. And one thing to always keep in mind is if one of those cemeteries ever tells you something that you don't quite agree with, you feel like they're overstepping their bounds, don't take what they're saying at face value. Don't be afraid to give some pushback. Go over there, sit down, have a meeting with them, have them explain it out. And especially if we're talking something that's in legal terms, I want the black and white print in front of me. I don't want some sales representative's interpretation of what they think should be going on out there. I know Texas cemetery and funeral law pretty well. I know where the boundaries are. And anytime that they've ever tried to push something back on me that I knew overstepped those bounds, I have no problem whatsoever about going over there and clearing the air. Because, and the main reason I do it is, one, I don't like anybody yanking my chain. I'm not going to disrespect them, and I dang sure don't want anybody disrespecting me. But I have a family sitting here that they're wanting this done. And all of a sudden there's a roadblock that's been put up that I think has been put there for unjust reasons. And so I'm not only going over there to make sure that I have continuity and continue to do business over there in the way that I see fit and I want to, but I'm also over there defending that family because they're the ones that have come over and put their trust in me.
Exactly. And it's the difference of trying to figure out where you're comfortable with. I've told people before, well, we're gonna go shop around. I'm like, that's fine. Please do. And don't. I tell you, don't buy from me because you think this or that. You need to buy where you're most comfortable with. This is something that's literally going to last forever. And if that's the case, be comfortable with who you're buying it from. That includes a cemetery or funeral home. Feel free to walk away. And I don't think, and I mean, even really the funeral homes will say that to families before too. And I don't mean in the situation of a monument. I've had several situations over the years where somebody has asked me, can I change funeral homes? Because one of the funeral homes they were working with, they didn't like how they were being cared for. And I said, yes, you can absolutely. And so there's one that we deal with quite a bit. I'd send them over there, not because we deal with them, but because they actually care. And not that the others don't care, but it was, the turnover rate at those places is pretty high. And so these situations happen to be the same individual who's no longer there. But nevertheless, you say, yeah, you can go where you're comfortable. You can have your loved one moved at those. You can have your loved one exhumed from a cemetery, moved to another cemetery plot if you want. It's expensive, but it can be done if you're not comfortable with what's going on. You have choices. I'd rather you be comfortable with those choices. And in those scenarios, if it means I cover and make sure I run blocker for you to make sure you're protected, I'll do it. That's fine.
Oh yeah.
A lot of these cemeteries are managed with volunteers, and those volunteers aren't trained or haven't really thought about how they're affecting an individual in what they're dealing with. And so they'll make these decisions and say, well, no, you've got to have the monument in 6 months. Sometimes that's, well, right now you can't do that.
Right.
But even if they say you got to have it in a year, sometimes that's not doable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not emotionally doable. Or they start going, doing things that I don't agree with. I understand there's probably reasons for it, but getting rid of flowers that are put on a grave that are, within 48 hours.
Right.
You go, just let it be.
Mm-hmm. And I understand some of those rules are there to not only protect the cemetery, but also help keep the cemetery, because some people do push it to extremes, and
yes,
there do have to be rules in place there to prevent that.
Mm-hmm. I agree, but some of it's having the tact to deal with people emotionally as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I think that's kind of what I know here. I know hopefully it's probably a short one today, but we I figured talking about some of these contract things and how to better serve some of these families. There's one thing I kind of want to talk about coming soon. I think you and I need to figure out how we're going to do this, but I've reached out to you, and I know you know about this, but folks don't know. I listened to, and I encourage people to do it. It's kind of funny, but the Jordan Peterson podcast where he interviews comedian Matt Rife, and there's a spot in there where he's talking. So the whole thing's kind of funny because it talks about this cancelization of Matt Rife, but there's a specific spot where they're talking about how when Matt's grandfather passed, how his friends treated him whenever he passed.
Mm-hmm. And
instead of, coming and crying with him and all that, they would send him all these grandfather jokes. And he said, my friends know me well enough to know that's exactly what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need everybody kind of going, woe is me kind of thing. So I needed something like that. And then, and I'm going to butcher this, but in that, Jordan's response was that he'd kind of done this thing talking where he was teaching at an Ivy League school about Auschwitz, and something in it. He had this realization, and he said, if you can talk light about something, and he didn't mean make jokes about, but he said talk light, like as if it's not a struggle. You're not afraid of the conversation.
Right.
But if you can talk about something with ease, you become a master of it. So you and I kind of started talking about that a little bit, but we also reached out to, I did reach out to Granger Smith, who's Texas country music artist, who's becoming a pastor. And the reason I reached out to Granger Smith to see if he'd come onto the podcast, we have not heard back yet, but hopefully we will. We'll reach out again. But to have him come talk to us, his thing is he wrote a book called Like a River. And he had lost a son back in 19, I believe. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm. It was sometime around that time,
yeah. And he this changed his life and whatnot. And so he's kind of talked about the same kind of concept a little bit, using that hurt to reach people and whatnot. So I kind of want to kind of have him on, and I'm probably going to reach out to our good friend Nick up in Amarillo and have him come on, because I don't know if I should be explaining this or not, but I don't think Nick's going to kill me over it.
Mm-hmm.
Nick has got his shop, and he's doing pretty well for himself. I'm super proud of him, man. He's turned Amarillo around pretty well. But his start was similar. He lost a kid, and it's tragic. And he's used that as fuel to be able to help other families through things.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to have maybe a multi-part series kind of talking about some of that, about how to be comfortable helping families in these tough times and talking with them about things instead of being focused on what do you want on the monument, and being done. Not that cold, quick. Well, I can put a flower here. How do you feel about this? Or we can, it was a baby. Let's put a baby rattle on it or baby boots. But having those open conversations about who the individual you're working for is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but those are my thoughts.
Those are.
So, what do you know about that? Other than that, what's going on in your world?
Oh, not much.
Anything coming up?
Oh, baseball season. That's all. That's the only thing coming up.
Really. That's
right.
Yeah. 38 days till Aggie baseball starts.
Oh, there you go.
So Aggie baseball will start before pros, probably right about the same time everybody starts showing up to spring training. Right? 30. Yeah, that's about right.
Well, my son made a travel ball team this year, so our first tournament's in March. So, yeah.
Yeah. You told me about that earlier because you're bailing on me on something else.
Yeah, I feel bad about that. I really wanted to go.
No. That's all right. I'll still have fun without you. I don't care.
I know.
So
I'll still have fun too. I like watching them play baseball.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, on that note, I guess we'll sign out and go do something productive. Maybe sell something.
It's 3:50.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've got an hour and 10 minutes. Maybe I can finish it figuring out these niche doors I got to design.
Your niche doors?
Niche. Yeah. How do you put... maybe we could probably have a full-on 5-episode series on how to place 2 names, a porcelain picture, and some flowers on a 12 by 12 niche door.
Everything for Marco. 3/4 inch.
Marco,
3/4 inch for Marco. You can get quite a bit.
Where do I find this font? Is this a standard font? Have you seen this font?
It's a font from the old text.
Oh, is it hand cut? Can I just start responding that way every time I see what font is this?
Looks like it's hand cut.
It's hand cut.
It's hand cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What color is this? Ain't cord anymore.
And you start getting them mixed up after a while. What color is this? Hand cut. It's hand cut.
I wish a supplier would do that. Come out with a newish color and call it hand cut.
And this is why I'm not invited places anymore. Is because I make these kind of comments.
Well, some people just don't know how to laugh.
Yeah. We can't have Tony there because he's going to say something stupid. Probably.
Yeah.
But look, whether I'm there or not, I'm going to say something stupid. It's a matter of does it piss anybody off or not?
Oh, yeah. I at least have a filter, and I filter out quite a bit rather than just saying the first thing that comes to mind.
And that should tell people a lot about you.
Oh, yeah. I would definitely be, politely but firmly asked not to ever come back to anything if I really spoke my mind.
Then we ask them politely yet firmly.
There you go. You got the reference.
So, all right, man. Until next time. Same bat time, same bat channel, which is nothing.
Well, shoot, maybe maybe right off the bat we'll remember what episode it is rather than always having to question each other and look it up.
No. Why? Why break tradition?
True. I mean, when we get into the thousands, it'll take us a little bit to look it up, but we'll get it done.
When we start remembering what number it is, then we're probably about done with it. It's not any fun anymore at that point. Oh gosh, it's number 42.
That's what we should have done was start at episode 500 and then just count back.
What is this like? It's like the calendar before Christ. Was it forget which Mel Brooks movie that is. It's like, what are we counting down to?
Yeah, people would have got excited around like, episode 2 leading into 1 then, because then they'd say, they're done. Thank goodness. Well, welcome to episode A.
Yeah. But, why stun them though? I don't know. This is kind of like just rubbing salt in the wound slowly.
Mm-hmm.
It stings just a little bit, but you don't know why you listen. You just do.
Mm-hmm.
I swear half of the listeners are my kids.
Yeah, mine too. If anything, we'll just switch it over and, start giving, fatherly advice.
Yeah. We'll just make it sound like, what is it, Coco Melon?
Try to throw in some, some language, trying to get them to learn some Spanish or something like that.
Or speaking script. All right, here's one for you before I let you go. I realized that I started I'm talking to my phone whenever, not just like when I'm on the phone, but the text predictive text, right? Mm-hmm. When you're talking to your phone to try and speak a text message.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving, so I told it, send a text message to so-and-so about needing to meet about a foundation. And I must have said something funny or heard wrong or whatever. Anyways, it was fountain. And they said, who's putting the fountain there? What's going on? So I've decided, though, I told him, my response was that, sorry, the speak and spell was not working as well as it used to. So that is now what predictive text is called, is speak and spell.
Right.
Use it as you wish.
I gave up on trying mine.
I found if you don't answer the phone, I've got an email that I've been sitting on for a week that I'm avoiding responding to, mm-hmm. just because I don't want them to think I'm going to respond to them right away. I already knew the answer whenever I read it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, even if you're talking about, the speech to text or even predictive text, my phone thinks that I have an affinity for ducks. Yeah.
Why are you telling everybody to duck so much?
I know.
And then you probably talk about like mother ducks and their ducklings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
about
observer of wildlife, especially of the avian type.
Yeah. Well, on that note, duck off.
Yeah, I had a ducking good time today. It was great. All right.
We'll catch you
until
on
next
the other
time.
side of that.